What's going on, everyone? Thanks for coming and hanging out with us. Today, I'm super excited to be doing this. A lot of y'all know I shared this recently on social media. We've been having some conversations about it. I've been diving a lot into Stripe development and Stripe applications in general. Even released a tutorial on it, which a lot of people are seeming to be enjoying and liking, and the feedback's been really, really good around that. And so I thought, since I'm already diving into Stripe and I know some of the Stripe devs, it'd be a really great way to kind of bring both worlds together and kind of talk more about this. Uh, Part of this is a selfish reason. I'm getting some inside info into like some of the stuff that I'm trying to build, but I want to ask questions in regards to like what is relevant to the community. What are some things that we could be doing here? And to be honest, in general, a lot of the conversation that's been going around this has been pretty interesting for me. I've been finding out a lot about Stripe apps and Stripe Connect. And so I kind of brought everybody together, and I'm so happy that everyone agreed to be a part of this. And so maybe we can do like a quick intro session of like who everyone is, what they do, what they know, and, why we're here all together, I guess. Maybe we can go in the order that I see people on my screen. I'm assuming this is like the same order in general, but we can start with Elliot. Elliot, you want to kind of introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey Danny, I'm Elliot Fouts, the CTO at this stop.
All right, and Michael.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining. I'm Michael Kovacs. I'm on the product team for Stripe Apps.
Awesome. Gabriel.
Also on the Stripe Apps team, I'm the engineering manager and former tech lead.
Nice. David.
Hey everyone, I'm a developer advocate here at Stripe.
Rob.
Everyone's so succinct. I'm Rob Osell, the VP of Innovation at This.Labs, and also been developing Stripe apps since the very beginning of the platform.
And Ben.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ben Hodis. I'm the product manager for Stripe Apps platform, and I just joined 4 months ago, so I'm also learning inside info. No, we've been doing a great job, so I'm looking forward to this conversation. Thank you.
So I'll kind of start this off in the approach or way that I wanted to take this. I am very guilty of this as well, especially when it comes to development. Most developers, myself included, when you think of Stripe, your first initial thought is like, oh, it's a checkout payment tool. If I'm just creating a checkout process on my website, it's the first thing that I'm thinking of as like that tool that assists with that. But that's pretty much, at least for me, not being on the inside, where my thoughts originally died. But honestly, it offers significantly more. And so I guess maybe if we can kind of jump on like, what are some lesser known ways businesses use Stripe beyond just e-commerce checkout, and maybe what that e-commerce checkout can kind of entail. And maybe if we want to start that conversation from there, anybody want to jump on that one?
Yeah, I can mention a couple of things. I mean, Stripe, has expanded beyond just, sort of run-of-the-mill payments. So if, for instance, if you have a recurring business that has recurring revenue, we have a Stripe billing product, that's available for that. That's become pretty prominent in the last few years, and we're seeing sort of even higher adoption of that with the age of AI. We have this recently released feature, usage-based billing, which, as the name sort of indicates, you can charge your users based on how much of your product or service they're using. So if you think of that in the AI world, is we've seen OpenAI, for instance, use that and charge users based on the number of tokens that they use per month. So billing is one. We have a whole suite of BaaS, like bank as a service products as well, which I think are not very familiar to a lot of folks. But we have like Capital, for instance, that you can use to offer flex financing to your merchants. So if you're a Connect platform, and I think we're going to talk about Connect, gives you opportunity to extend loans, for instance. So those are a couple of them. There's also since I think we're talking to a developer audience here, I'm going to mention a suite of developer tools that we recently shipped. There's Workbench, which if you go into the Stripe dashboard and you look it up, it's a context-aware tool that allows you to sort of get various information about your integration. So you can pick an object and sort of drill down all the way, and it tells you everything you want to know, like the hierarchy of the object. So very useful for debugging. It was built based on feedback we had heard from a lot of developers. There's also Stripe sandboxes, which is pretty exciting. If you've developed with Stripe, I'm sure you've felt the pain in the past of testing and how sort of complicated it could be. A lot of folks used to have to open up a separate Stripe account just for testing. So now with sandboxes, within an account, you get an isolated testing environment. So you can play in there, mess around, do everything you want. And that's completely separate from your live transactions. So yeah, those are some of the things. Some of the other things.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, do you have anything else?
Sorry, I kind of rambled there. Somebody else jumped in.
No problem. Michael, do you want to take anything on this?
Yeah, for sure. I agree that a lot of people think of Stripe just primarily as payments, and there's lots of things adjacent to that. David, you mentioned like billing and invoicing and even tax, which is a very annoying but very necessary thing for almost every user at some point. And then I also think things like issuing and capital are less obvious, but really important as businesses grow. If they want to build like a lending program or an issuing program, they can do that. And then I think additionally, there's all the products that Stripe offers. And then selfishly, because we're on the apps team, I think apps is also something that people don't think of by default. But if you're using something like tax and you have to file in a region that maybe Stripe doesn't support, there in some cases are apps that help solve those particular problems that are not obvious out of the gate. But I find that's really interesting as well, where apps are helping merchants solve these like sometimes niche, sometimes a little bit obscure functionality, but it ultimately helps them grow their business. So I think it's the suite of Stripe products and then the third-party apps around that are kind of where you get some of the most interesting use cases.
I'll tell you, that's true about Stripe too, how extensive the umbrella is when you are an app developer and your team Slack, every once in a while, somebody just posts a link to a random page of documentation and it's just like, did you know Stripe can do this? Or you see some parameter and you're like, wait a second, what is this whole other offering? So yeah, agreed. It's a much bigger platform than people give it credit for at times.
I'll definitely be one to admit that my info on that was very limited. And once I started diving in, especially with the app sector, that's what kind of got me really interested in a lot of this. And so and a lot of this sparked from one comment that was made in a Twitter space. And this is where like a lot of my deep dives really started going way deeper than it was before. And so I'll kind of ask this question, especially to, Ben here. The comment that was made was, why do we see Stripe apps being an undersaturated market as a developer? And so why do you see Stripe App Store or something developers should invest more time with? Previously, it was said that we believe it to be an undersaturated market for devs at this current time, but that's going to change. Why are we confident in this? But also, why do you think it's something worth developers spending time learning or trying to introduce into their organizations?
I mean, it's a fair question. And I think that you answered part of it when you said the Stripe App Store, because right now it's awfully hard to buy an app on the marketplace. You know what I mean? Like a lot of other places, the way that you can easily monetize an app is by a simple one-click, payment or subscription. I mean, hey, we're Stripe. We've got all these fantastic ways. We'll throw usage based billing in there eventually. But the ability to purchase an app and get paid for your work on Stripe directly and through the marketplace, through the store, that's something that's not there right now. And I would say that as we're bringing that capability online, that's just going to, accelerate the number of apps getting into the marketplace. And I mean, certainly I've got a couple of ideas that maybe I can get a little side businesses going, side apps for Stripe. That's one thing. I think also right now you're seeing a lot of apps that are integrating with their services, like a third-party service, as Michael mentioned. I think that what we're going to start seeing more and more of is services that are almost directly competing with Stripe. Like Stripe offers, risk assessment. Wouldn't it be cool if I could also get a risk assessment app from the marketplace and then compare those things, or maybe even use that one instead? And so I think that early adopters, early movers, once some of these obvious kind of powerful platform functionalities start coming online, are just going to be in a really good place to capitalize on that. And so I think that both from a scenario standpoint, we're going to be bringing more opportunity online. And then I also think as a way to just get straight up paid, we're bringing more things to get online. So, kind of a twin approach there.
If I can hop in as well. I think part of the reason that we really built the Stripe app platform a few years ago was acknowledging that not every business has the same business processes and the same needs. The ability to customize how Stripe works for your business is huge. And Stripe Apps is really our gateway into that as we bring more and more capabilities, more and more places where you can extend and customize Stripe, tailor it to your specific business. That really allows us to meet more of the needs of our customers. And for developers, we really unlock a unique capability in sort of the ecosystem of Stripe. One of the things that makes Stripe special is Stripe Connect and the thousands of platforms out there with all of their thousands of connected accounts. So we create this sort of network of networks for developers. If you build an app once for Stripe, suddenly we can embed that app into all of those platforms. Those platforms become a distribution engine, allowing you to get your app to all of their users in markets that you might have otherwise had to build bespoke integrations for, or more likely would never have built an integration for because it was too small to bother with that specific platform's needs. So I think there's a huge opportunity for developers there as well.
I'll say too that the users that we've spoken to, the end users, right? I mean, when you run a business these days, you know, you may be technical, you may not be, but the point is that we rely on a lot of SaaS products to run businesses these days. And so people are looking at having all these various tools that have different parts of their business and different parts of their data. And it's very difficult to connect them. And oftentimes that forces them to buy other products that then have advanced configuration settings, which become another SaaS product they have to make two other SaaS products communicate. So there's a real opportunity here for users who are just exhausted and just want their data to be flowing across the different products of their business. If you can be a developer that really puts an intuitive connection here for businesses, the number of businesses that are using Stripe as a platform, you have a real opportunity to really make an impact in a lot of people's day-to-day business lives, but also to really get a lot of loyalty in that connection. And I think that's just a pain point we see all the time with people is trying to solve that idea of having too many products and how to get them to harmonize better.
Rob just reminded me of the XKCD comic. It's like there were 16 competing SaaS products. Don't worry, we're going to bring these together. There are 17 competing SaaS products. Don't worry, we're going to bring these together. But yeah, that's always going to be it. It's a great point.
Yeah. You know, the one thing that kind of made me realize about the potential for Stripe apps in general, and this is something that I've basically been explaining to even some people in our meetup group that have been trying to figure out, like, you know, where this invested interest came from. It's very different than the actual or average app store because no one is watching an ad to get an extra life to play a game here. Like, these are businesses that are doing transactions that are making like tangible, or not even tangible, but they're making very real decisions that affect the bottom line of a business. That customer is going to be way more powerful and way more profitable in the long term than it's ever going to be when it comes to someone who's just, you know, watching freemium stuff, trying to get that game going, and they're probably their usage of that app is going to be very short term in comparison to what I see a Stripe user going to be. If they have a tool that's, or an app that's taking data from one place to another that they're utilizing in a very meaningful way, that's going to be a tool that they use for a long period of time, and compared to the actual freemium game that probably has a life of like what, a week or 2 weeks before you get bored of it. And so that's the one big thing that I saw, which is why I've been diving down this a lot deeper. And of course, you know, this dot, we have an app that we own and apps that we've made, and I think just looking at the data from that, I think it tells a very clear picture of like where enterprise organizations should be looking at if they're trying to like add an extra offering for their customers. At least that's the way that I see it currently. All right, so it kind of brings me to, like, I guess the next part of this question then. Can you share non-traditional use cases of Stripe Connect? Is there something that like maybe people aren't paying attention to, or maybe there's some other avenues? I know, David, you have a comment on this one in that regard.
Yeah, I can start broad and let some of the apps people jump in. So, you know, for those who are not familiar, Stripe Connect is, you know, our product for facilitating multi-party payments. So sort of the common case folks, you know, think of, or one of the base cases is, you know, platforms and marketplaces. So you think of Uber, for instance, you know, having to manage collecting payments from the riders and paying out to all the drivers. So Stripe Connect really facilitates all of that. But to answer the question, there are a lot of sort of non-traditional cases you might not think of. One that I think is cool is the PGA. So if Professional Golfers Association, if you're into golfing, so they have a program where they enable coaches to sign up and offer lessons. So if you're an avid golfer or somebody who's trying to improve their game, you can go on their site and sign up. And sign up and get lessons through the platform. So that's something Stripe Connect actually facilitates, is getting payments from all the folks that are taking lessons and making sure the teachers get paid out. So yeah, basically any case where there's multi-party setup where you want to sort of distribute payments is something Stripe Connect is pretty really good at doing.
Awesome. Anybody else want to take this one?
I can jump into it. I always find Connect fascinating in the level of focused business. So for example, I was talking to a company a few weeks ago where they provide software to marinas to manage their boating inventory and slips. And it's like this very niche focused thing, but they're built entirely on Stripe Connect to help other marinas manage their booking and their slips. And it's incredible. I was talking to another company. They do bookings for tattoo artists, but not within studios, just like non-studio bookings for tattoo artists. Like, I'm always fascinated how many corners of the world can use Connect and build a business. And I think that's some of the magic of the internet, right? That you can build into these niches. So I think Connect is this kind of never-ending tool that will constantly be serving these businesses that either don't exist and should, or that are starting to exist as kind of a new form of structure.
Awesome. All right. And so from here, I guess we can kind of jump into this one. What are the key benefits for developers building platforms using Stripe Connect? Anybody feel like jumping on that?
Well, we've got a brand new secret thing coming soon, which is actually, as Gabriel was mentioning, taking advantage of the ecosystem of a platform that allows other marinas to onboard. We've been working on this idea of embedded apps. So apps that are actually embedded into the user's well, you know what? I'm going to screw up. Why don't we have one of the experts go and actually explain their experience with it instead of me just talking?
Sure, I can hop in. I think where Ben was headed with this is today Connect is amazing for allowing you to sort of manage the multi-party money movement, the complexity of onboarding new accounts for all of your users, for all of those businesses who you are providing some service, some benefit to, and that's amazing. And we've grown a lot with it. I think where we see a lot of pain, we see a lot of friction today is in the fact that it is still a lot of work to go from sort of your first steps on Stripe and on Connect to just build a basic platform to really building a fully fledged sort of traditionally known as a custom Connect platform where you sort of have a completely white label experience. You're in control of that experience. That's a lot of effort to go and build. Where we are sort of moving from Stripe side is in trying to offer a lot more sort of off-the-shelf componentry and those kind of things. We launched Connect embedded components at Sessions last year, so the ability to sort of grab your payments list view or your dispute management flow, all these kinds of things, put that together sort of Lego brick style and build your Connect platform in that fashion, really tailor that to your needs. And then as we bring the Connect embedded apps that I mentioned a minute ago into that story, suddenly you're offering accounting solutions like your QuickBooks or your Xero integrations for as an embedded part of your platform. Suddenly you have offered an entire business suite, entire set of solutions to your customers, and you barely had to write any code at all. And I think that is the huge future potential, the next stage of Connect.
Sure. And I mean, we're, developers are told all the time, don't re-roll your auth solution, right? We've been, as developers just beaten into our heads it's a lot better to buy some sort of build on top of authorization and authentication platform than it is to roll your own. But yet so often, and maybe just because the APIs for things like Stripe were so good in the past, we were kind of building piecemeal our own, platforms and accepting payments and doing payouts and having to track all the refunds and fulfillments and all these things. And I think just, well, Stripe has always provided a lot of tools along those lines. I just think what you have with Connect, and especially with the embedded platforms and then the embedded apps on top of it, is just this pretty potent ability to as Gabriel was saying, to have a lot of that done for you in ways that you don't have to relearn a lot of the mistakes of tying things together incorrectly or having to think through a lot of the edge cases. You can really leverage I can only imagine how many countless man hours of engineering time and product thought that's gone into that at Stripe. And then you get to focus on the part that you're good at, right? Like a lot of people, they're not starting like that marina. They didn't start that marina to be a financial services company or to worry about that part of it. They want to focus on the part of their solution, which is about their innovation. And that's what's cool about Connect, is it lets you do that. Focus on the part that is your core differentiator and offload the rest of it to a proven source like Stripe.
I think what's so interesting about embedded apps too is it lets you get a lot out of the box for free. So kind of the build once, deploy many places, but that many places is a huge population. And so much of Stripe is using Connect, which is a great thing. And as a developer, it would be difficult to get in front of those many businesses that could benefit from what you're building. But the value in Stripe and in Connect and in the ecosystem in general is that once you build, you can get in front of and potentially get used by and add value to so many millions of businesses, right? And Danny, comes back to your point. For some weird way, I think B2B is the most interesting area. And it's because it's high consequence, it's real, like it's real business, it's real dollars. And I think that's a huge opportunity, specifically with embedded, is that as a developer, you can build and then be in front of these millions and millions of small businesses that they need accounting, they need CRM, they need marketing automation, they need all of these things to operate their business. And it's such a huge opportunity for developers.
Yeah, when you start looking at bigger reach, it's also physical, right? So when you're trying to reach an audience outside of maybe the region you're familiar with, that starts to be some friction, right? Like I don't know the laws in this other region or this other part of the world, and that brings in like privacy laws, like know your customer laws, tax. So Stripe has a lot of stuff that removes that friction, and you can quickly access kind of the global market with whatever you're creating.
And I'll toss in one extra thing here, which is very specific for developers. And that is this idea that, WordPress, for example, I think shocks people all the time when people realize how much of the internet actually still runs on it. And so like when you're thinking, what are the financial incentives for building, say, a WordPress plugin? It's exactly that. That's so much of the ecosystem relies on it. I think it might shock people to realize, and I don't have the hard numbers, if anybody wants to share them, feel free, of how many businesses use Stripe, at least a portion of the platform for their day-to-day businesses. And I think, we operate a Stripe application that integrates Stripe and MailChimp. And one of the things that really has us excited about the future of this platform, again, is just as it becomes easier and easier to integrate Connect into the businesses that are already using Stripe in some capacity, you're going to be surprised how much of the websites and the services and the internet that you're using is actually running on Connect underneath the hood. And you would never realize it because of how strongly it can be themed and integrated into an existing platform. And I think that's that reach that we're talking about. So like that's that kind of incentive, is you have the ability now to kind of ride the leading edge of that wave as it spreads out across the internet. So for developers and people that are looking to build these integrations, I think that's what's really, attractive to us, at least.
Cool beans. I think we've kind of answered this slightly, but maybe let me ask this more formally, and I'll ask it to you, Michael. What opportunities do embedded apps offer for developers and businesses, and how can embedded apps create new income streams for enterprise level organizations? Like, what are some considerations there?
Are you asking from the developer side, so the opportunity for them to sell and make money, or if I'm a business and I want to offer apps to my users, then what's the revenue opportunity there?
Honestly, I think both. I think both would be valid here.
Yeah, maybe the less intuitive one is the second. And so if I'm a company and I'm offering Marina software, which is the example we keep using, but the point is I don't have great accounting integrations or marketing integrations. And one, I probably do want to give those to my users. But if my users find them valuable and they are going to pay for a subscription, there could be a case where I, as the platform, also have like the ability to make more revenue because I'm helping the developer distribute that app. It's being used by my users. And so we have cases today, although it's kind of offline and kind of just between specific developers and platforms, where if a user does adopt an embedded app or like an accounting solution, then there's might be a revenue share between the platform and the developer. I think in future, we really want to see that in a much more scaled and predictable and easy to execute way. Today, it's a little manual. But as a larger company, if you can provide more value to your users with a suite of integrations, I think it's not just about one, but you can offer accounting, CRM, maybe some fraud and chargeback protection. You can have a suite of value add things that you don't build, but your users are still really benefiting from. Then there's probably some sort of like commercials that go along with that as well. And that benefits the end user, they get a great solution. It benefits the platform, they can participate in some of the revenue. And then as a developer, you're getting distributed, you have more users using your software. So you're ultimately getting increased revenue as well. So it's a bit of a win-win-win. But for large companies or enterprises specifically, I think they likely have a big customer base already. Distributing a suite of value-added services to their users, they can usually participate in the revenue from that. That's how they kind of get added revenue off that suite of tools.
Stickiness probably too. I mean, lack of integrations is probably a big reason people switch tooling. So I mean, even if it's not more revenue, it's revenue for longer term.
Yeah, I think integrations into the other systems that users use is one of the strongest ways to increase retention. And it's not from a like a kind of snake oily stickiness way. It's like you're actually giving the user more value because they have less time spent in an annoying process or having to do manual tasks. So they are happier with the service and therefore like they want to retain longer. But yeah, I think that's a huge part of it as well.
I gotta say, the comment section came through with some research. Rob over here asked or said something, and Carla Montana over here, I have to give her props. She came in with something very quick. Carla, a developer, great developer from Memphis, Tennessee, who is now located in Nashville. I know Carla personally, and I'll bring the comment back up. Quick research: as of March 2024. Almost 5 million websites globally use Stripe to process payments, including 804,180 unique domains. Stripe is used by businesses in 46 countries and supports over 135 currencies and 59 payment methods. And more to the topic today, and Stripe Connect is used by 14,000 platforms and marketplaces and has more than 8 million active accounts. So, yeah, those are the numbers. That's kind of what has me going down this area. Really great answer, by the way, Michael. So I guess this kind of makes me jump into question right here. When making a Stripe app, there are many things that come prepared to the UI SDK. I've recently found this out as well, and going through that documentation and uncovering some of the ways that Stripe does things versus maybe a typical TypeScript or React developer would try to approach a problem. The learning curve for me felt pretty straightforward, I'm not going to lie. But are there things that you recommend for developers to focus on first when developing apps for their enterprise organizations, or things that may help the code process? Are there common pitfalls to avoid? Maybe there's certain things that you've noticed some devs going in order to approach a problem that may be incorrect or may create, I guess, a roadblock for them early on. Gabriel, you want to take that?
Yeah, I can speak a little bit to that. I think you nailed it, that we really try to provide a framework that feels intuitive and that should be easy for anyone familiar with React and TypeScript to pick up. I think where people start to get a little bit more confused or tripped up is more in how they think about like building in the environment of a UI extension in the Stripe dashboard itself. I think there's a lot of complexity to how do you kind of create a slimmed down experience that's going to fit in for the app drawer as it exists today. And we do want to open up more real estate in the future, but that is what we offer right now. Understanding the componentry that we have available, we often get a lot of questions about, hey, why can't I just write my own custom components, those kind of things. And we have made an intentional choice to kind of lock that down a little bit. We wanted to retain a really consistent look and feel for a merchant, a user in the Stripe dashboard, to really feel like this is still a Stripe experience as long as you are on Stripe's dashboard. So it's a little more constrained than some people would expect, and there are some areas where it's like, how do I get in and make my app do exactly what I want it to? We've seen some amazing creativity. I've actually seen people build whole live chat like support interfaces into that drawer. I've seen some great integrations with like postage and shipping where digital scales were integrated. So it is possible to do some really cool stuff with the componentry that is available if you're sort of the mind. And there are good examples out there on GitHub and in the wild. I would also call out that the way that we have sort of controlled things from a security perspective, you do need to understand sort of how like CSP, content security policy, and those things work. So you really need to understand what domains you're going to be interacting with. Like if you are calling out to third-party websites and those kind of things, it's really important to make sure that you include those URLs in your app manifest, along with all the other kind of Stripe permissions you need. You need to think about like all of your data sources and all the things you're connecting to. So those are some of the common pitfalls to watch out for. I think the JavaScript side is actually the easy part.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that any JavaScript developer, certainly a React developer that's ever used React Native, would feel very at home working inside of the Stripe situation, because that's an example where you have kind of the full power of React, but at the same time, you have to understand that what you're putting in the templates is not HTML, but is React Native components, and what you're putting in the styling is not actually CSS, but it's meant to feel like CSS. And that'll be your same experience kind of working inside of a Stripe app with building the views. I would say that one of the things that's maybe interesting and a challenge for developers when they first start with these apps is to realize that Stripe's giving you a lot of stuff, honestly, for free, as far as hosting and additional support that if you want to take advantage of. I've seen integrations that do almost nothing inside of Stripe, like they don't leverage any of the platform. These are usually legacy integrations that have just been sort of moved forward. So they do a lot of things offsite with their own infrastructure. But when you think about it, right, if you have a Stripe app UI, and that's where you're doing a lot of your configuration and a lot of your interactivity with your customers, now you don't have to host a website, right? If you use the Stripe secret store, now you don't have to worry about secrets management and privacy and data security. If you deal with some of their integrations directly, you get authentication often for free managed. So you have that piece, authentication, worked into it as well. And we've found that sometimes you can basically do a really fully featured app and integration off of the back of a couple of Lambdas. Basically, you just need a couple of services in the back end that maybe mediate some stuff. And Stripe brings a lot of the other hosting to you. So that's one of the challenges I would say for developers, is that when you're doing it, is to really first start by understanding what you're being offered, because you can build very slim apps as far as things that you have to pay for and host yourself.
Okay, and so we had a great question come up from the chat that I want to kind of throw on here. And this is definitely like, a development thing to be worried about. And, Gabriel kind of touched on this slightly, so maybe if Gabriel wants to take this one. Are there any security concerns I should be aware of when using Stripe and JavaScript together? Maybe if you're new to the development cycle, you don't know if there's certain security practices you need to kind of be aware of, or something maybe that you need to do preemptively in order to secure something. What are your thoughts on that, Gabriel?
Yeah, I mean, security on the internet is an endless topic, but I mean, I can at least highlight a few things. I mean, at a baseline, working with JavaScript and Stripe is no less secure than using some other programming language. So I don't have any concerns or doubts to share with you there. I do think it's important to, if you're new to sort of JavaScript development, client-side development, building like a React Native application, it is important to think about kind of like where you're storing state, especially if that contains secret data. You don't want to sort of keep that like in memory in your client-side session, because somebody can open up the developer tools and find that, and then suddenly they're reading all your secrets. So you got to be careful there. That's why we built things like Rob mentioned. We built the secret store API, which allows you to store things like OAuth tokens securely in a way that they're accessible in the context of your application, and simplifies the development process there. We also added some other pieces for like if you are communicating from your front end to your back end. We have a signature verification component in both our front end and back end SDKs that you can use to say, hey, this request actually did genuinely come from my app, from the Stripe dashboard, from this account, from this user on that account. So making sure that you are verifying those signatures is a thing that we have seen people kind of miss out on before, and we've had to inform some developers that they needed to update that. We also see common just general security issues when people are setting up OAuth or things like that, making sure that you're using your state parameters and CSRF tokens and things of that nature correctly. We try to abstract away as much of the complexity as we can, but it's still, you got to do your due diligence. And I'll call out one other one that I thought was really interesting that came up recently. Is I think a lot of us have known for a long time about like SQL injection is a very common thing. We've already had one XKCD reference, but I'll throw little Bobby Tables out there. Everybody loves that one. And what I had not really considered before, and it's still like everybody's moving towards AI, is prompt injection is a new type of problem. And I love this. How do you sanitize your inputs into your AI system to make sure that you're not going to receive some malicious instructions? So if you're building an AI app, I think you should really be thinking about that too.
I think you maybe touched on this a little bit, Gabriel, but I'll add one other thing that we've had to deal with, and that is role-based authorization. So for Stripe apps as well, Stripe also provides that information. And so, as a developer, you want to be really careful that even if that person's from a correct organization, are they the right person from the right organization to be seen and doing the kinds of things that you need to do? And Stripe does additionally provide that information as well, which is something to keep track of.
No, I think that's the overarching is a great point, because the overarching for me, from the product side of things, when I think about security, privacy, is that Stripe, once you get somebody to install an app, you can access a lot of their data. You can access a lot of their very personal data that they have given you, of course, consented to and given you permission. But that's something that, as a developer, it's always very important to remember that you got to treat it like gold. And so all of the things that Gabriel and Rob are talking about are the things that, they're optional in a way, but they're kind of not, because of the sheer power and the importance that we give to allowing you to access businesses' financial information. So that's the power of the Stripe app developer, and so something, with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah, right. That's the thing, is it's not that the challenges for security in JavaScript are that different for Stripe apps or just Stripe integrations in general, even outside of apps. It's that you are dealing with money. And so suddenly there's motivation to prod you. You become a vector for that people pay attention to for attacks. So I think it's the same kinds of challenges as far as like knowing who people are and making sure that they are who they say they are, and that they're the type of person that has a need to know, and these types of things. But you just have to realize that, you will have a vested interest in minimizing your access and the amount of data that you hold. And go back to what Gabriel was saying, that's a big reason, like in our Stripe apps, we rely a lot on the secret store, is because we don't want the added trouble of having to secure a database that has potentially sensitive information in it from people that are motivated to access it. So, I think that's why, again, you rely on those tools that Stripe's providing in this case as a developer.
Cool. All right. So I think we'll kind of go on to this next question here. And I think this is going to kind of reemphasize our earlier part of the conversation. What technical challenges does Stripe help solve in building a marketplace? David, you want to take that one? You're muted.
Yeah, I can kick this off. So yeah, I mean, again, going back to Connect and sort of this idea that it's, built for addressing payments between multiple parties. If you think about all the complexity that goes into that, again, if we think of Uber, for instance, right, and, building their platform, and onboarding riders and drivers, making sure that the drivers are who they are. So, like validating their ID, paying taxes at the end of the year, sending 1099s, paying the drivers out. Uber supports, multiple riders for the same ride, right? So making sure that you can take payments from multiple parties for the same transaction, essentially. So yeah, when you think of all the complexity that goes into a marketplace, really, Stripe or platform, Stripe, Connect really facilitates that and just removes all of this for you, avoiding you to have to build that. And then it also helps scaling, right? So once you build the platform, it's built, it's there. So adding new, riders, again, going, if we think of Uber, riders and drivers, that's no additional work, for the platform, right? So again, it's this idea of removing complexity. And also it connects, integrates with all the other suite of, Stripe products. We talked about billing, for instance, earlier for managing recurring revenue. So Stripe Connect plays nicely with all those other things as well. So yeah, again, pretty powerful Stripe product there.
Awesome. All right. So then let's kind of jump into this one. If anyone has the answer for this, obviously I'm involved with a lot of open source. I found out that Stripe has some stuff that are open source. What open source SDKs from Stripe should developers know about? Gabriel, you want to take that?
I mean, David might be better positioned than I am, frankly, but I can certainly speak to the all of our sort of core SDKs are out there on GitHub. You can go and find those. I will shout out to the Stripe Apps GitHub repository as well, where you can find a whole bunch of examples of how to build different kinds of apps, our UI extension SDK, those kind of things. David, what else am I missing?
Yeah. So we have this notion of, I'll actually share the link, Dan, if you want to share it broadly. So there's community SDKs. So, we kind of promote certain open source SDKs that people have built. So we'll share the list, but there's things like Django. So DJ, that's, DJ at Stripe, or DJ-Stripe is that one. So, it's a Django library. So it allows you to sort of, pull Stripe data into your database and keep it in sync. There's a Flutter one. So yeah, we'll share that, but there's a whole slew of open source SDKs.
And I'll say, outside of the SDKs that Stripe provides too, I think we've talked about how these like apps and some of these integrations are built. For ones that you build on your own platform, obviously you can use almost anything that you want. But as far as like building Stripe apps, we've been pretty surprised how many Stripe React libraries we've been able to use inside of our tooling. So you can build it almost exactly like you would build any other React application. There's obviously going to be some limitations if you try to pull in any type of component library or styling library. Those obviously aren't going to work in the sandbox environment. But data fetching ones that people use a lot of, state machine operating ones, you can build a very typical React application as far as that goes as well, for people that are wondering.
Cool. What unexpected business models have been enabled by Stripe? Do these models scale well for enterprise level organizations, or are these business solutions better fit for like small to mid-sized businesses? You want to take this one, Ben?
I actually think, Michael, do you want to jump in here?
Yeah, I can speak to it. I don't know if I would say unexpected, but probably less known than it is used, as just making payments a revenue source for customers. And so if we think of a SaaS platform and they charge $30 a month for their service, that's a SaaS fee, and then it's built on subscription. But increasingly, more and more companies help their customers process payments, and they participate in the revenue. So revenue and payments becomes like the business model, or a business model for a customer. So it's not just subscriptions anymore, which one helps grow the revenue, but I think two, also diversifies the business. So you have subscription revenue, payments revenue, and that just can make for like a bit of a more robust business. So not unexpected, but becoming more and more common. The other one I think that's interesting is around usage-based billing. And so I think a lot more companies, not just in AI, but in general, are going to move towards a more granular form of pricing. So it can be based on like metered usage of a certain like resource, or like consumption and how much they use at the end of each month. I think that's really interesting because it gets closer to the value a user is using. So if you just bill them $30 and then like, well, too bad. If you use it all, that's great. If you don't, too bad. But when you can do usage-based billing and the user just pays for what they use for any given month or any given year, I think it aligns how much they pay with the value much better. So I think a lot more business models around, like I said, usage-based pricing, metered billing, things like that are going to emerge. I think that's really interesting as well. So that's kind of the one I think is probably unexpected and going to grow over the next little while.
I think the one that is unexpected, maybe it was just unexpected to me, and I kind of mentioned it at the top a little bit, but it's that Stripe and the Stripe apps marketplace we want competition for like core Stripe capabilities and features. I think about like all of the things that Stripe does, maybe if I think about, the Apple ecosystem at first, how much they did not want, an email application going on the iPhone, because we have the email application, you know what I mean? And that's kind of the approach that I assumed, Stripe would have. And when I got here, it was very much like no. We are trying to, like everybody's saying, allow developers to build the things that we have not yet built, or that we wouldn't build because of specificity. And like, that's surprising to me, because some of those things will start to encroach on things, other businesses that Stripe offers, like if there's a coupon or an issuing or something like that. I'm not as fluent as some of the other folks in terms of the product lingo, but like it's surprising to me that you will be able to build a business and make money directly competing with the platform that you were on, because it's a synergy, if I dare to use that word. And so that's something that was surprising to me, I think, as I got more learning the Stripe ecosystem and getting involved with Stripe.
I'll add one more dimension, which I think we've touched on a lot of the sort of connect and platform use cases. And Danny, you sort of opened this up by mentioning both small businesses and enterprises. I think what is interesting to me, and I think a lot of people don't fully grok, is how much Stripe really spans from the smallest businesses. I mean, you can go and you can get a Stripe account and start taking payments for your little t-shirt shop on a WordPress blog, and that's no problem. You can be a startup or a digital native and be building sort of a great optimized checkout suite driven payment interface, usage-based billing, jumping on that. You could be a platform providing those services in a platformized way to all these other companies. And then you can be a multinational global business, a Fortune 500 company that is also building Stripe integrations. And Stripe Apps also has what we call private apps for that. So it's an integration pattern where you can sort of build the same turnkey solution using those same like very simple authorization primitives and secret store and all these kind of things, and build integrations with your backend systems that are bespoke to you, how your business operates. And we've seen cool use cases coming back to the UI extension and the front end side of things, where people have built their support flows that are specific to like their support team into the Stripe dashboard. Those kinds of solutions that are really tailored and have solved some pretty thorny problems for some of our largest customers as well. So to me, that breadth of scale and breadth of business models, and the fact that we've built platforms and solutions that speak to all of them, is what feels best to me and is most important and slightly surprising.
Just to add, at the risk of being very repetitive, like Ben, I couldn't agree more with your point about how we don't see it as zero sum, and like we very much embrace the idea that the ecosystem is open and should have things that overlap with what Stripe does. And it just like online commerce it's basically like an infinite game. Like it's not just moving everything that's offline to online. There's completely net new styles of business that wouldn't exist prior that should exist online. And so I think there is endless areas for there to be things that Stripe does and great tax solutions and third-party tax solutions. And users will benefit because there'll be endless specialization and maybe some regions that Stripe doesn't want to support that only a local expert could. That local expert can make a living in their area by being an expert in that specific region. And I just think there's endless examples of that. So yeah, for us, it's a huge, I think, important pillar of the way we think is that it's an open ecosystem, and we embrace, there should be lots of overlap in Stripe Apps and the ecosystem of what Stripe does and what third parties do, because ultimately merchants have to choose, right? They'll know their business best, and we want them to pick like the ultimate best fit. We shouldn't be the selector of that.
Cool stuff. And so we had a question come in, and the question specifically asked if we can give an example of how you can use the JavaScript API, the Stripe API with the JavaScript application for a checkout process and checkout form. Sorry. To be honest, there's so much in the docs. Like I'm a big fan of like really well written docs. I think Stripe's docs are pretty good at this, but they also have if you just want to kind of simplify this even better, they even have like custom pre-built UI elements that you can use for your forms and stuff. So I'll share this link here with y'all. docs.stripe.com/payments by itself is going to give you a lot of answers. But if you go to the elements one, you can find pre-built UI elements that you can kind of plug in to your checkout process. So it really makes it a little bit easier in that regard. But to be honest with you, you shouldn't really have too much trouble setting up the form to take payments. I think the docs will really help you out in a good way. I'd also recommend the Stripe Developers YouTube channel. There's so much stuff on there that I think would be really useful in that regard as well. So hopefully that helps. Keeping us back on track, I guess we can kind of move to this question because I think we've kind of already answered this one already. But for me, it felt like, especially going through the docs, it felt like the Stripe ecosystem was kind of well positioned within JavaScript. And so why is it positioned so well with JavaScript ecosystem? Is JavaScript developers like a target audience for Stripe? Or like why is it so positioned? It felt really well positioned. Is JavaScript a primary focus for Stripe, or are there other solutions or languages that are on Stripe's radar as well?
I don't know that I could speak to why we are necessarily so well positioned. I mean, I think that's partly thanks to the amazing developer community that we have that engages so strongly with us, and folks like yourselves who are willing to put in the work and create great content like this. So I think we do consider JavaScript to be one of the most important languages that we support. There's a huge and ever growing portion of sort of the internet that is based in React and TypeScript and is all being driven client side. I think this is where we see so much of development heading. The ability to build sort of web apps without needing to build an entire backend system and run on server infrastructure is awesome. I mean, that's how I want to build. So I think our support there is really just commensurate with where the industry is headed. That said, we have strong SDK libraries in Java and Ruby and Python and all your traditional backend languages too. So we're no less supportive of those. But I'm glad you feel the support in the JavaScript space. That's awesome.
I mean, this is the question that spawned 1,000 Hacker News threads, right? Like, why are we all stuck with kind of typeless JavaScript? Oh, no, we got TypeScript. Oh, no, we got this, we got that. I mean, it's just funny how, the old LAMP stack has turned, that's not the hotness anymore. Now it's Python and JavaScript and whatever the frameworks are on top of that. And so, as I mentioned, joining Stripe before then, I was a customer before I was on the team. I guess it's like the hair club for men, but reverse. And I really was able to get on quick. I was able to understand because I was a JavaScript developer. I guess I still am. I'm still a JavaScript developer. And it was very nice to be able to use things that I expected to work the way that I expected them to work. And so maybe that's kind of why, to get folks like me and all the JavaScript developers that are out there as kind of the lingua franca, whether or not we want it that way, it certainly has turned into that. So
I will say too, one of the things is that, for our Stripe app that we have developed, we accept, we have subscription tiers for it. And of course we use Stripe to collect the payments for that. And I think just as a business that has grown to, need to take some simple payments, and then as it gets more advanced, it can grow with you. You can start with just simple payment links and you can migrate to checkout. You can migrate to, to the full Connect platform. You can kind of go with it as you progress as a business. I think on top of that too, right, as JavaScript developers generally, especially in the last 10 years or so, we're built on top of open source. We're built on top of just like, we need a problem to solve. Where's a library? Let me pull in a library that solves it. And I think this is just where Stripe having very well documented APIs and a very solid SDK just made integrating really simple. And, we are, if nothing else, we like to follow those pheromone trails as ants. We like to just find the simplest path. And a lot of times that tends to be Stripe SDKs and APIs because the platform is also built with features that are the same way. So, I think that's what attracts people is that idea, again, that it can grow with you.
Cool. So I think this question is really well served, especially in this setting. Over 1,000 people checking in with us. So thanks for hanging out with us. And so I guess what advice would you give to developers and business owners starting with Stripe? Have there been things that you've learned or experienced? Maybe some tips that you can give them to be like, this will make it, I guess, a better use case or experience for you as you're developing it, especially if it's like the first time that the organization is putting their devs on this.
I can go first. If nothing super insightful, it might seem, a little self-serving, I guess. But yeah, just dive into the docs. There's a lot of demos in there, a lot of integration guides you can step through. I said self-serving because I'm gonna plug our developer YouTube channel, which you'll see my face on there. So we create a lot of content, to help you build your integration. But yeah, I mean, I'm a developer advocate. I talk to a lot of developers, so I would say just get your hands dirty. There's no other way, to really do it. And I think Stripe does a decent job of making that, accessible to people, not just developers, by the way. We have a lot of no-code solutions as well. So I would say just dive in.
Yeah, and on that note, there's no substitute for really shipping something, getting it in the hands of your users, getting that user feedback. I mean, it is always stay close to your customers and really understand their needs at every step of the way. We as developers often think we know the answer. We'll build something, and you got to stay humble because you're going to find out later that what you thought was right isn't. So I mean, trying to find the right solution, trying to find the easiest solution to the best outcome. I think that's a lot of what we've been talking about today is how do we take off-the-shelf pieces like Stripe apps, like Connect embedded components, like Connect itself, like payment elements, all these things, pulling those together and building your solution. Stick to spending your time building the business logic that is important for your customers. Don't rebuild everything that we've done for you or that the open source community or anybody else has done for you. I mean, this is what we're all here to do, is really to meet our customers' needs, and we don't do that by spending all of our time down the guts of something we've already done. So
yeah, we've got Stripe has the capabilities to do anything. I swear to God, you could run NASA and launch a moon mission with the stuff that we've got, and like it can be overwhelming. And don't worry, like the first thing that gets out there, like if you can move money through it, congratulations, you've successfully achieved like the hard part of business, which is getting money to move somewhere, right? So like you can grow it, you can expand it. Like we're always going to be there. You don't have to get it all at first. Just strictly from maybe this is a me problem. I see all the toys and I want to use them, but sometimes it's better just to start with the getting started. You're surprised how much you can get started with just that.
Yeah, I'll point out a couple things too that might be a little bit offside, where you might not think to look. One of them is that Stripe has a gigantic ecosystem of content creators as well. So, I mean, we already heard about the content that Stripe puts out, but if you just go to YouTube and you search for Stripe, whatever, whatever you're trying to do, Stripe checkout or Connect or whatever, you're going to find a lot of videos of people that are going to show you, how to get through your first integration, how to get through your first app. Danny just released one on how to build your first Stripe app. So shout out to Danny. You can check out that video. We might link it later or something for people to see. But, so content exists out there on top of the already amazing documentation, which already walks you through your first time. But there's a couple other things that I'll point you to. One is the Discord. So there's a really active Discord support system that you have to get plugged into. It's very active. You get instant responses on almost any topic. And I think then what can come out of that is sometimes if you have an unusual use case, you're going to get connected with people like Gabriel who go, hey, I heard you're trying to do something a little bit weird. I want to hear more about it. And, that's the kind of curiosity and the desire to be better that Stripe has. So I think getting plugged into Discord is a big thing that you're going to want to do. But one of the hardest things is knowing what Stripe has. I said that earlier, right? People in my Slack, my team are constantly slacking. Hey, did you guys even know this product exists? It's very difficult to know what's there. And so the last thing I'll say is that Stripe has a couple of certifications that you can take. And, there are reasons to have that independent of just learning, but it will help you if you just want to survey what's out there. It will help you get a sense of what is out there to do. So there's developer certifications, there's also architect ones. So that might be a thing that you might want to look at if this is something you're going to very seriously do, and you really want to make sure that you understand how broad the platform is. So these are just a few of the things. You'd be surprised how much content is out there and community is out there helping you get started.
I can definitely say on the Discord side, when I joined last week, 120,000 members. So it's definitely not small by any mean, shape, or form. And so if support is what you need, that's definitely a place where you can find it. When it comes to, and because I also saw a comment come in here, like, what is a good resource or resources to get going with Stripe development? The Stripe Developer YouTube channel, I think, is a phenomenal place where you can kind of get stuff going there. So youtube.com/Stripe Developers, I think, is a great place. To be honest, also, their docs, like stripe.dev, I think, is a phenomenal place where you can go. To be honest, you know how I even came across it? It was going viral on Twitter like a month and a half ago. And I saw the post all over my timeline, and that's where I started diving in way deeper than I ever did before. I think it's a great place to be. Also, this.media. Rob kind of said this one already. We just released a whole tutorial on this. It's getting a lot of traction. I took it from a different position. Right now, I think the first tutorial is like getting your feet wet as far as like Stripe development goes. The next tutorial coming out for is going to be a lot more higher level with a lot more advanced topics. And so I think that's going to be really good for developers all around. But if you've never built a Stripe app before and you work at a company, I think this is a great way to get introduced to a lot of things. It follows TypeScript. So, if you're not familiar with TypeScript, it's a great way to kind of pick that up as well. We dive into like the UI SDK and all the good stuff. Great place to kind of get that out. And if you're on the YouTube channel right now, you can just click to that video right after this live stream and dive into there. On top of that, there was one extra thing. Oh yeah, we kind of shared this earlier. Their communities and the SDKs in the communities there. I think you can get a lot of information there as far as like open source items and all that other good stuff. I think we shared that as well earlier. So outside of that, and then, yeah, we have one extra thing here that I'll be sharing. It is the insiders, insiders.stripe.dev. You can get all kinds of stuff there as well. And so I guess we'll kind of...
Sorry, just real quick, I'll expand on that a little bit. So we've talked about the vastness of, Stripe products. So insiders is your opportunity to dive in and get signed up for betas, very early on. And, you have people like Michael Kovacs, on this call and folks like, so the experts, are there to help you get onboarded to the betas and answer questions. So yeah, please check it out. Sign up for betas. The one that Daniel posted is our AI team is doing some cool stuff and they're looking for beta users. So if that strikes your fancy, please sign up.
Cool stuff right there. So outside of that, I think we're going to start wrapping this up, and I'm going to ask the final question. Are there things that Stripe is going to be releasing that people should be aware of, or any like cool little things that as a developer using Stripe maybe could be on our radar, something that's going to pop up? Anyone want to take that?
I mean, there's lots of fun stuff coming in 2025. I mean, we were here in the sort of the last working week of 2024, and we are actively sort of trying to ship our last ships for the year. One of the things that I know is coming, and some developers who are following Stripe more closely are excited about, sandbox support is increasing rapidly. So Stripe apps is going to be fully compatible with sandboxes this week. So whether you're a merchant wanting to try apps in your sandbox, or a developer wanting to use sandboxes as part of your testing flow or your demo flow, all that's going to make it a lot easier for you. I would love to tell you all about the things that I know that we're going to do in 2025, but I think I can speak more broadly and say, first off, tune into Sessions. That's our big conference coming up in the spring. That's the best opportunity to see all the cool, shiny stuff that we're going to demo on stage. But the themes that we've already talked about today of really making Stripe meet the needs of our customers of all sizes in better ways, being able to customize and tailor Stripe to really meet your business process, to move Stripe from being sort of a spoke of some other sort of hub of functionality, of automation, of workflows, of all these kind of things, and making it more of the center of that universe is, I think, going to be a theme that you'll see from us this year, and we're going to launch some really cool stuff around that.
Cool. Anybody else? Ben?
I was just going to say +1 to sandboxes. I mean, there's a lot of very cool stuff that's going to be coming, least of which is, since a sandbox is a separate merchant account, that means you get separate keys. That means you get separate secret stores and all kinds of things. So if you can kind of hear me thinking about, maybe we can get some continuous deployment stuff working, with some fancy stuff. I don't know. We haven't started working on this yet, of course, but I think that sandboxes very specifically, once they do start lighting up, are going to be revelatory for developers. So I'm really looking forward to that myself.
Listen, if some of you are sitting there and you're going sandboxes, that doesn't really sound that exciting. Where are the real features? Tell me, tell me you're not yet a Stripe developer, without really telling me. That's something as developers we're really excited about, because test data is really hard. Because to have an account that's an actual business that does real business is actually surprisingly difficult to come across. So yeah, that is a bigger feature than it might immediately seem, as far as making sure that you release reliable software.
Cool. So I will say, number one, 1,200 people in here right now. Thank y'all so much for hanging out with us. That's huge. You could be anywhere in the world. You decided to hang out with us. Hopefully you got some value for your time. That's something that I'm very big on, value for time. And so hopefully you got it here. If you enjoyed this in any way, shape, or form, let me know. Tweet at me, LinkedIn post, DM, whatever it may be. And if we get enough of those, maybe we can bring them back and answer some more questions, especially if there's like something relevant. Maybe next time around we can do something more topic specific if there's something that the community is asking for. The comments that are coming in, thank you all so much for showing the support. Let's go. Absolutely wonderful session. That definitely means a lot. So if you're getting value out of it, that means a lot. So let us know. And maybe we can kind of say that. And also would love to say that this is sponsored by this.labs. So obviously this company that I work for, we have amazing developers on there. If there's a way that we could help out, if you have questions, we're always happy to jump on a conversation, chat about it. Especially if your organization needs help making a Stripe app, maybe we can help out in that regard as well. But at least we can clear up any issues or confusion around that. Also, highly recommend, again, checking out all the resources from Stripe. Their Discord, I think, is phenomenal. I know we already mentioned it, but I just want to give an extra kudos there. If you have questions, honestly, a great place to kind of go there with that. Or one other side of it, I would honestly recommend checking out stripe.dev if you haven't already. Other comment here saying thank you all. I also want to thank the panel as well. Thank you for, I know everyone, especially everyone on this panel, our schedule's chaotic. So the fact that we were all able to find an hour that works, I think is a very big one. So want to go ahead and have that. Gabriel, I think you have some last words as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to all of you at this dot. I mean, you guys have been such excellent partners with Stripe apps since literally day one. You were in there in the alpha phase, testing with us, helping us understand what kind of a platform we needed to build. You have done so much in helping grow not just the platform, but apps on that platform. You've got some of the best ones out there. So really exceptional partnership. And I just want to say thank you so much.
Well, from this side, we could definitely say appreciate those kind words. Is there anybody else that wants to say anything before we close this off? Any last recommendations or directions for people?
I'm going to be repetitive again and just say thank you guys so much for being such incredible partners. Like, the ecosystem is only the sum of its partners, right? Apps by itself is a bit of an empty box, and we need great partners like you and others. So a huge thank you. We wouldn't make progress without it.
Awesome. And I'm seeing some comments from people, man, from that were here at the beginning of the talk. Now they're here at the end of the stream. Y'all really hung out for the whole time. So definitely appreciate that. A lot of love and support, y'all. So outside of that, y'all, it's been an amazing session. If you know me and you follow me at all, I love to cap my sessions off. I don't like it to become a long-term thing. So an hour of value is what you got. An hour of value is what we try to give. And hopefully we'll see you on the next one. Goodbye, everybody. I love that synchronized wave that everybody had